everybody, welcome to The Edge Confidential. I am Jenny. I'm here with Danny Sanfellipo. How are you?
Good. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
I don't know a lot about you. I know a little bit. Charles, who's our clinical director, you guys go way back, really good friends. And he has told me that you have such an impactful story, where you came from, what you've been through, what you've overcome. So yeah, let's take it back. Let's talk to everyone out there and share with them where you came from and how you got to where you're at today.
Okay, so I grew up in a little kind of white trash biker town called Ocean Beach in San Diego.
Okay.
And I had a pretty normal upbringing as far as my parents are concerned. You know, it's kind of interesting. My mom's a Jehovah's Witness. My dad's an atheist.
Oh, wow.
They're still together.
Oh, wow.
to this day.
I've never heard of that.
I know, right? But they were they were good parents. And when I was 9 years old, my parents were out of town for a couple of weeks in Australia, and I was sexually abused for 2 weeks, basically. So by a familiar. And when my parents came home, I ran away. I formed a hatred for my father, which he had no idea what happened. My mother had no idea because I was told not to say anything, or my sisters and they would get hurt. So just a horrible thing. You know, I just happened to be one of those people that was a victim of it. And I ran away and decided to let, outlaw bikers, convicts, and, that kind of scene that was around there, still is today. Now it's more of a hippie kind of type biker scene, but be my family. And I'm very stubborn, but I was very afraid, and all the feelings that you have, of shame and guilt and fear, I kind of blacked it out, to be honest with you, after a little period of time, and really pretty quickly. Unfortunately, during that time, I was being given beers, during that 2-week period. So I wasn't really choosing to drink, but it was like, and it was just one of those just disgusting things. And and a couple weeks after being out on the streets, in these houses where there's little kind of parties and biker parties. Now, I want to disclose I'm not a biker. I was never involved in an outlaw biker game, but I did grow up with a lot of these guys. But somebody, they're over there drinking, and I ran with a pack of kids whose parents just either were in prison, they were drug addicts, or they just really didn't care where they were, My parents did. That's where I was different. My parents worried sick about me. But one guy, they were drinking Jack Daniels, and they're like, "Hey, youngster," I'm curious and watching them, just kind of tripping out on the room and people, and in fear, these are adults. But mind you, not the best adults, right? To be around. And you want to try this, youngster? Yes, I do. I'll try that. Did a shot, my first, big shot of Jack Daniels, and fell in love. Immediately at first I was afraid because my chest felt like it was on fire. But then slowly, all of those feelings that were always right here, they still come here, just kind of melted away, and I was comfortable, and I was no longer afraid to be in these rooms. I started to feel loose, relaxed. A couple weeks after that, kind of the same situation was going on. We were in another little house type gathering, which happened a lot, and in this time period, and these guys were spelling their name out on this big glass table with this white powder. Again, "Hey, youngster, you want to try this?" And mind you, I'm 9 years old, but and I'm like, "Yes, I would. I'll try anything. I got to fit in with these guys who are already doing this kind of stuff." So I did. And it felt like somebody took a blowtorch, stuck it in my nose, and lit it. And my eyes were crying / pouring tears, and this is back, in the 80s when there was real dope on the streets. Nothing like what's going on today. So I was up for 14 days, and that became my concoction for the next 30 years. was crystal methamphetamine and alcohol, Jack Daniels, and just hard alcohol.
Yeah.
So that added to me kind of blacking out that feeling, which I wasn't allowed to think about or talk about anything. Just it never happened. It never happened.
Right. Yeah. So from 9 years old. So, I mean, that's such a young age. You think like developmentally, emotional maturity, all those things. So you're going through life, and your last like sober part of you is at 9. So. And you're going in and out of prison, right? And
yeah, so at 11 years old, just, again, running around with the wrong people, I wound up getting my first trip to juvenile hall for grand theft auto, and a couple of trips in there. My parents would come to juvenile hall. I'd go home because I had to, and I'd be gone before the morning. They had to let me go home, my parents. And that was a cycle. My father sent me to Lawton, Oklahoma with his brother for 6 months, and the judge agreed, okay, let's get him out of this area, because I kept going to juvenile hall. Mm-hmm. Then to Texas with my other family, and it never really worked out, and I wound up always coming back, and I always wound up getting back in the same scene with the same people doing the same things. And at 13 years old, I caught this particular incident. I wasn't even involved in. I wasn't even there, but they sentenced me to 8 years in the California Youth Authority. So from 13 to 21, where, like you just said, we're learning how to behave.
Yeah.
That's where I was.
That's where you learned.
And I really didn't use drugs for the majority of that in there. I was like, just to give you kind of an idea, in Whittier, LA, the first place I went from 13 to 16, it was called Fred C. Nellis, and in the papers when they shut it down, they said they closed it down because it was quote unquote breeding monsters, is what they said in the front page of the newspaper. But there's 13 lodges, 90 people on each one, and there was 11 white boys in the whole institution. 4 were already somebody's girlfriend. And I was one of the other 7. So that's what it looked like. The rest of it was black and Mexican and other gangs, but primarily black and Mexican gangs in LA. So and that was 1987, 88, and 89. So
when you look back on that now, what were you so desperately needing at that age that you weren't getting?
Help, guidance, survival. Like, I had to do it all by myself and went through literal hell. Just getting beat up all the time. It took a while. It took years for me to get to the point where, almost got raped several times in there. And
so it just made you harder.
Yeah.
Instead of having you open up and someone listening to you and you feeling safe, you just got harder and more of an exterior shell and armor as you went on. Which I could only imagine what that led to.
Yeah, it led to me getting out at 21 years old, and then 2 months later in the bottle with meth, and then back in prison, where I started my first of 7 prison terms. So 3 years, 4 years, 6 years, caught 25 to life with the third strike. They struck the third strike for the purpose of sentencing, which means they just took it off. And I credit my mother and her praying every day and showing up to courts, and just real quick on that note, she would get up in the mornings at 3 a.m., drive all the way to Sacramento. So the first place was in Whittier, and she was always there on the weekends. And then the next one was in Sacramento, and she would drive all the way, to Sacramento.
Bless her heart, mom out there.
Wait in line for 2 hours to then be able to get a sandwich out of a vending machine and sit there for 45 minutes while I looked at all the other guys in there with their moms who were victims, and mommy was trying to take care of them, when really, my mother, looking back, what I put her through and her being the victim is what was really going on. But yeah, I learned how to be not the best productive member of society, to tell you the truth. So yeah.
So with being to prison that many times and it starting from such a young age, Was there a point where you just felt, okay, this is my life, like I'm never going to get out, things are never going to be normal? Like what point was it when you felt that complete helplessness set in?
So, yeah, you know, and for anybody that's struggling with this, you know, I was that guy that, and everybody has it somewhere in their family or a friend, they know someone who's just constantly in jail. They just, they can't get out of that cycle.
Institutionalized, I mean, is that a real thing? You hear it get thrown around. I mean, was it, and is it the case for people like this where they just, this is it for me,
100%.
Never gonna get out of this? There's
a difference between, so institutionalized, you know, has a lot to do with a few different things. But for instance, like to this day, I have a 3-bedroom house, 3-bedroom, 2-bath house with a big yard, you know, the dishes, the sink, you know, where I was in an 8x10 cell most of my life, watching tumbleweeds go by in the deserts and thinking, this is my life. And I still have a tendency to use the same one cup, one spoon, like that's institutionalized as being, it's kind of stuck in a specific routine.
Yeah.
But constantly being incarcerated, you become institutionalized in the sense that you think the way a certain group of people think, and you believe that that is the whole world. And, you know, not having anybody to direct me, and then me having to kind of fend for myself, you know, because I come from a dog eat dog world where, you know, a secret can stay safe with 3 people if 2 of them are no longer around. You know, so for me to open up and talk about, I start with that because it is true. And a lot of people come up to me and go, man, I'm so glad you shared that. Like that happened to me. I would never say that in front of anybody. But thanks for sharing that, you know, about as far as being abused. But it's huge. I've learned through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, thank God that saved my life, you know, that what happens to us or what happened to me in that first, you know, period of life as a child determines the way I react with everyone else. Even to this day, it still affects me. It's an ongoing process trying to, you know, to overcome that and manage that and learn how to live in society like a normal human being.
Absolutely. And it just goes to show for anyone out there that's struggling and has been going through the system and abuse and all these things, and no matter what, you can overcome one way or another. I mean, the trials and tribulations that you've gone through your life for over 30 years, to be able to find the will to keep going and get sober and help others and lead a life of purpose and fulfillment and happiness. I mean, it shows that with recovery, anything is possible.
Anything's possible.
I mean, it gives me goosebumps because really anything is possible. So
it really
what
is.
took you into sobriety? What did that look like? When did you find that moment of, okay, you know what, I'm going to do this? What did it look like?
Towards the end of my, you know, I got heavy into needles, not only meth, but then I wound up breaking the golden rule inside and started slamming heroin as well, and I got strung out on heroin.
And this is in prison.
This is so
you guys understand what he's saying. This, for you that don't know this happens in prison.
Yeah, so you know, when you came out of the youth authority, the California Youth Authority, that was like college. So when I got to prison, I was already a maniac. They called us YA babies or YA rejects. In 2012, on October 7th, I found myself sitting on a bus stop back in my neighborhood. I had drank I don't drink beer. I don't like to pee every 30 minutes, and I like to get there. Where I'm going, I want to get there, and I like to get there fast.
Yeah.
And so hard alcohol, and then in the end slamming, you know, using needles. But I had 1 Four Locos, which I would drink because they were like 14% alcohol, right? So they had a lot of alcohol content. And I blacked out in Orange County, and that never happens. I could drink a 5th of Jack Daniels, do my meth, and keep myself steady. But I wound up blacking out for whatever reason. I went through every gutter, dope dealer, cooking house, you know, place all the way to San Diego, and then found myself sitting on a bus stop. My truck's out of gas. I'm sitting there. Semis go by on this street, which is very similar to like Harbor and Wilson over here in Costa Mesa. This was Rosecrans and Midway in San Diego. And I thought, you know what? The next semi that comes by here, 18-wheeler doing that, you know, doing the speed they're doing, I'm just going to step in front of it because I'm 39 years old. Always, like you mentioned earlier, always. I was just looking over my shoulder. I knew I was going back to prison because that was my cycle. That was what I was programmed to do. Get out, get overwhelmed by society, you know, can't function with a girlfriend. I don't know how to get my license, pay tickets. I don't know who Google is or where he lives. I don't have any idea how to live life out here. So it got overwhelming to the point where, and then of course everybody's telling me, you're a 3-striker with your record. I mean, I got kidnapped in a Department of Corrections officer out of Florence in Arizona. That was my first adult prison charge. So like, you're never gonna get a job, dude. You can't do this. And that's what the voices told me. I don't like to talk about white light experiences because not everybody has them, you know, but I did. I saw my life flash before my eyes. As I stepped, something with warm hands pushed me back and said, this is not what I want, you know. And I saw this light flashing across the street. It was like this little square light blinking really, really powerful. And it sounded like I was in a warehouse with a switch going on and off. Click, 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 click. And I'm looking and I'm seeing my life flash before my eyes. Everything from the time I was a child to the abuse to the bad and good things that I did growing up. And I just remember asking, you know, at first, the deep-rooted alcoholic in me, which I believe is just a word to describe my condition, which is I have a decision-making process or, you know, problem. I started to rationalize. I wasn't even having a linear conversation. I've never experienced this before in my life, but something is talking to me from a higher intelligence. And I started to rationalize and say, but wait. And then I realized I wasn't even talking to anybody. And that's when I surrendered. Right there, I was like, oh my God, here I am trying to defend myself because I could talk my way out of anything. If I had one more idea, Jen, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. I always had one more idea to fix something. But prior to that, I had Googled AA meetings. Because when you're in prison, you learn about all these hustles that you can do. And they're like, man, you can go out and get one of those court cards. You get them signed. They can't check them, bro. They're anonymous. Then you go tell your PO, you know, and he'll get you in a program. That way you can beat getting violated, which is exactly what my last idea was. So I Googled this place, AA Canyon Club is in Laguna Beach. I walked in there.
That's where I got sober.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Miracle. Miracle of power there. And I've got a slingshot, a white tank top, which we call wife beaters or slingshots, some Dickies, tattoos. And Jen, I walked away, I talked a certain way, and I behaved a certain way. That is very institutionalized. Okay, like some of the guys you'll see running around this, you know, Santa Ana, LA, the way they walk and talk with their tough guy, that was me. And nothing changed that until I got there. But I went in there with the intent to lie, cheat, manipulate, steal, find this court card thing, sign a few of them, and then go pitch my parole officer on not violating me yet again. This was a couple weeks before that. But while I was there, I heard some things that I couldn't deny were very powerful. Like, come back. We care. Look at your beautiful eyes. They're
judgment.
Just come back. And I'm like sitting at this table, and this lady walks to the bathroom. Her name was Deborah Carmen. I'll never forget her. She's my angel. But she left her purse there with all this money in it. She's got this Mercedes outside. I'm like, she didn't know me. But she was the one that was being so kind to me. And I was like, doesn't she know I'll take this money from her in this purse and I can go take care of myself for the next month right now and start a business with what she's got in this purse. But for some reason I didn't do it. So anyways, after that night on October 7th, I knew where to go. I knew where to go. And October 8th, 2012 is my sobriety date. And I wound up hearing things in there. You know, I would go to the meetings and stuff would come in and out my brain, and I didn't understand a lot of it. I had no idea how any steps on some wall with words could possibly help me. And if anybody knew where I came from, I wound up getting a sponsor. I wound up working those 12 steps. And they told me, look, just get a sponsor, work these 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous, even though it has nothing to do with your past. Nobody's been right where you've been, but everybody's been right where you've been. You just don't know it.
Yeah.
Try it. And then just show up every day like you've been doing, and don't pick up or drink no matter what. And I'm glad I took that challenge, because here I am today. I'm not homeless. I'm not sitting in front of a bus stop about to end my life. I would literally sit on the side of the road or in the hotel room with the covers over my eyes, crying, repeating over and over, I hate my life. I hate my life. I hate my life. And hardest thing I ever did was get sober 10 years ago, but I never want to do that again. And I've been through hell and back in different places.
How did you find your passion, what you enjoyed doing? How, like, after the life that you had led for so long, from such a young age?
Being a victim, not only at 9 and taken advantage of, but also in the youth prisons until I was able to take care of myself. One thing that became very apparent to me was I needed to learn how to take care of myself and defend myself. But reading books, personal development, martial arts, I dabbled all my life in different things, but I just couldn't let go of the drugs long enough to actually get anywhere with any martial art. But then I found Jiu-Jitsu, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and Muay Thai. And when I got sober on October 8th, October 9th, just to give you an idea of how our body and our memory and our mind work together, my body became programmed. I was sitting in the alley outside where I normally would be drinking Four Locos and smoking a cigarette, or drinking a Jack Daniels drink and smoking a cigarette. And this is day 2. This is October 9th. And I'm drinking a cup of coffee instead. But in my other hand, I went like this. And I did not have a cigarette in my hand.
But just
and I realized, wait a second, I'm a puppet. I'm a puppet right now. And then I grabbed the cigarette out of my pocket and I threw them away, and I quit smoking that day and never touched it again. But also that day, I decided to go start martial arts again. And I did go into jiu-jitsu.
Wow, right away.
That's me. I got to stay, and so I went right into it. I'm like, I'm going to go. I love to take on, I still to this day take on way too much. And then I have to try to figure out what's my priorities. But I'm working on that. That's an everyday thing. But yeah, and I started over. In 1998, I started doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu kind of when it was in its early stages. And I got up a couple of belts, and then I wound up back in trouble with drugs. And then I started over when I was sober, and it's just a great companion. I think everybody should have an outlet physically when you start to get sober.
Right.
Whether it's running, basketball, jogging, any kind of sport. Some people play tennis. Martial arts for me, because I have a condition that lies in the mind, it is the best for me, because it's a mindset. It's not just a fighting, right? So, like, I'm a first-degree black belt now. I've now accomplished, not only getting a black belt and probably the hardest martial art to get it in that time, and only by the grace of God and being sober too. I would have never been able to do that. But now I instruct at night at my school.
Amazing.
And that's just I work hard, I train, and I do my meetings. And that part of being institutionalized, because there's many aspects to it. It's the routine that I developed. I train at American Team in Westminster. It's a checkmat school under Master Ali and Leandro Vieira. That's those brothers. Master Ali gave me my black belt. Anyone is welcome to come. They know me as Coach D there.
Yeah, I was going to say, to guys out there or women that are watching this and so inspired by you and want to come
get some free classes.
Okay.
I'll give you guys free classes for a week, for a month. It's called American Team, A-Team Jiu-Jitsu in Westminster, A-Team. You can look that up and just show up there and say, hey, Coach D said I could come in and get some classes. I'm there Monday night. I teach Tuesday night. I'm there Monday night training, Tuesday night, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. So you'll find me there from 6 to 8 p.m. But you can show up and just say, hey, Coach D said I could come get some classes. And we'll give you 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month free.
You guys.
So you guys could, feel it out and see if it's something for you. You guys, so that's something that I think is powerful, is to have that. You're not going to get beat up. It's not like, it's very much like the program. You come in, we're going to show you, we're going to meet you where you are and put you with people that are where you are and let you start to grow and learn about yourself and what are all the challenges because you are your biggest opponent, not only in life, but on the mat.
That's right.
It's the same concept for everything. It's us. I'm my biggest, drugs and alcohol were not my problem.
That's a symptom.
Yeah, that's a symptom. My problem is Danny. That's always been my problem.
Thank you so much for your words and being of service. You should be a motivational speaker. Honestly, you have a way of speaking. I could just sit here and just let you talk for hours. So you guys reach out. Where can people get a hold of you? If you're on Facebook Facebook, it's Daniel J. Sanfellipo. I have a couple. My ex-girlfriend locked me out of my last Facebook. That's from back when I was using. But Daniel J. Sanfellipo, Sanfellipo. You can, Facebook friend me or DM me, direct message me there. And then on Instagram, it's DJSAINT 1020. DJ Saint 1020. There you go, you
Sanfellipo
guys.
means Saint Philip in Sicilian, so that's just my little
That's awesome.
But yeah, message me and I'm happy to help. And like I said, A-Team Jiu-Jitsu, you're welcome to come get some free classes. Anybody, ladies, we have a lot of females in our class. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. You're amazing. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You're too kind.
Thanks, you guys. Have a good week. We'll see you next time. Bye.